Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so very much for attending today's school board meeting. It's good to see each and every one of you. We'll start our meeting off by having our invocation by Rabbi Alter Korf. I hope I said that right. Followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. And then we will have our national anthem. Today will be provided by a soloist who has committed to play the national anthem from Lakewood High School, Go Spartans. Tristan Nelson, who's a tenor saxophonist. If we could all stand, please.
I'd like to begin with an act of goodness and kindness, an act of charity. As a wise man once said, every time two people meet, something good should come for another person. So I'm putting this dollar inside this charity box we're designating today, and I'll leave it here for the school board to designate it for some charitable cause. Almighty God, Father of the universe, we are gathered here today to seek counsel on best educating our children. We seek your counsel on best empowering all your children. We pray to always remember that nothing is more important than knowing right from wrong, and that education at its highest teaches children not only to be good at math and science, but to be just and good people. Almighty God, we pray today for the strength and the resources to bring goodness and kindness to the world, to each carry out our unique mission to make this world a better place. Almighty God, we humbly ask of you that you bestow your grace and your wisdom upon the honorable members of the School Board of Pinellas County, that they may act always in the best interest of all our children. Let us always remember that it is the children and students of today who are the parents and teachers of tomorrow. Grant us the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge to best guarantee your world's future by educating and empowering tomorrow's adults today. May our efforts meet your loving approval, and may we ultimately hand off your universe to a future even better and brighter than today. And let us say Amen.
Amen.
The Jewish New Year is about to begin, Rosh Hashanah, and it's customary to sound the shofar in the 30 days leading up to Rosh Hashanah as preparation and to get us in the frame of mind and to call us to repent and to improve our ways. As Rosh Hashanah is not just the Jewish New Year, it's the day of renewal for the entire universe. It marks the anniversary of creation as it is in the Bible, as it is in our tradition. So I'll take a moment with your permission to sound a brief few notes of the shofar.
Thank you, Rabbi. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again to Rabbi Alter Korf from Shabbat Jewish Center. And thank you so very much, Tristan Nelson. I don't know if Mr. Michael Kernodle is here. I didn't see him. But he's the band director for Lakewood High School, and some of you may know they've done, the jazz band has done a wonderful job. They've been to the Kennedy Center. They've performed all over. They have released 2 CDs, so they're doing a really good job, and we thank them for using their talents in Pinellas County Schools. The National Congressional Medal of Honor Convention will be held in Tampa next month. As part of the Medal of Honor's Character Development Program, students from throughout the Tampa Bay area were invited to submit a coin design representing one of the Medal of Honor's core values: courage, sacrifice, patriotism, citizenship, integrity, and commitment. 3 Pinellas County School students had their designs chosen and will have coins minted and presented at the convention. President's Breakfast, where the students will be able to meet other medal recipients. Let's watch as the students learn their coin was selected as a winner of the design competition.
The winner of the winning design, young lady by the name of London Handy.
So today we're doing a coin presentation and award for student artwork. The challenge to the students was to reinterpret one of the character traits from the Medal of Honor Character Development Program and turn it into a visual representation.
We had over 700 submitted, some amazing designs, and this went through a long process, and the thought was, let's have a contest, let's have the kids design a challenge coin, and then end of October we're going to have 50 of the living Medal of Honor recipients here in Tampa for the convention. Then we're going to have the kids present their coin to the recipients at the President's Breakfast. Bryce Meyer.
Extremely excited. I mean, he and his brother always make his mother and I very proud. But this is really special. My grandfather was a World War II vet, and my father was in the Army during Vietnam. So military service means a lot to us, and we're thrilled.
Very proud of her, very proud. I'm so excited. She did it all on her own. I don't remember her bringing it to us, so she definitely gets all the credit for it.
And everything that the character program is based on and the medal is based on is everything we want to exemplify in the first place. And so to have the students experience those character traits and learn about them and then be able to interpret them to such a high level is amazing.
And I have this wonderful coffee table book, which Dr. Grego had shared with me. And it's addressed from Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, and Jimmy Carter. So these are the names that are actually on the book. And you can read and enjoy everything about the book at that time. This coin says, "The flag represents our country with the hands representing teamwork and friendship. Never give up, no matter how hard it gets." And this is from the youngest student from the elementary schools who has designed and created this coin. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have our introduction of our professional and community organizations by Lisa M. Wolf-Chasen, Public Information Officer.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego and staff, it is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organization. Representing the Pinellas Educational Support Support Professionals Association, Nellie Hinez. With the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, Mike Gandolfo. And representing the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Maria Cantonis. Today there will be a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibilities Committee. Please welcome from Lakewood High School, William Albee and Mason Hawkinsmith. Thank you.
That technology, huh?
So this year at Lakewood, we look forward to being able to use the newly finished gym, which was been working on under construction all summer and a little bit of last school year for many applications, including basketball games, volleyball games, homecoming, as well as we were able to host many other events on campus using that new gym. We have currently we have under construction our new robotics lab as well, which is state of the art, and it's looking really, really good. I personally went in and looked in on it today. It's looking super nice, and we can't wait for it to be finished so we can use it all as that for our students. We are also getting 10 new computers on campus for a sandbox lab where students studying cybersecurity are able to practice hacking and defending each other using the sandbox system. Yeah, so last year, our sports teams, we had many great accomplishments. Our boys baseball team were district champions. Our boys and girls swimming team were district champs. Our boys football team were district champs. Our boys basketball team were state runner-ups, district and regional champs. Girls basketball was district champs and regional championship as well.
On the academic side of things, we had multiple FBLA national finalists last year. We had national merit finalists. Our jazz band released an album last year and were able to perform at the Kennedy Center in New York. We're looking forward to more accomplishments just like this in the next year. The beginning of this year so far, it's been going pretty well. Our administration has been really helpful, just coming back for returning and new students that were on the campus.
Yeah, and then as well as academic things this year, our football team so far is undefeated and playing very well. Our swim team is sending 12 swimmers to one of the largest invitational meets in all of Florida later this month.
So just earlier today, over 30 freshmen expressed interest in joining our FBLA club. And yesterday, over 100 students came to the first meeting of our new esports organization. So on the extracurricular side, things are going pretty great. We look forward to continuing this great start of the year all throughout the rest of this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. William Albee and Mason Hockensmith, for coming. I know it was difficult because you got out of school many hours ago. So thank you all so very much for coming and representing Lakewood High School on today. We appreciate it. We now are to the part where where I will ask if we have any amendments to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 3 amendments to the agenda, and pretty much let me take a moment to explain them because they deal with some things that we're dependent upon other people to accomplish. And the first 2 are really dependent upon the Department of Education. The first is the 5-year capital outlay plan. As you know, this board adopts that 5-year plan in conjunction with the overall budget that we'll be doing later this evening, time certain at 6:30. However, the educational facilities information system, that subsystem, has not been released by the Department of Education, so that online submittal has not been updated. So we will be waiting for that to refresh this information and bring this information back to you when the Department of Education has this website or has this template completed. Mr. Herbeck assures me, or at least as much as he can, this will be completed and will be provided to this board during our next board meeting on September 24th. It will not impact the meeting later on today at the budget. I just want you to feel comfortable with that. As you know, we always pass both of the capital plan and the budget together, as it should be. The next is the Florida Safe Schools assessment tool that we were planning on bringing to this board. However, and it sounds like I'm being critical of the department, I'm not, but the tool that they're using has just been revised, and it's been revised quite a bit. And so what we'd like to do, as we just received it, is to bring the more up-to-date information to the board workshop next Tuesday and go through it more thoroughly with you. Mr. Herbeck, I think, has provided the board a hard copy, as this is confidential information, but we will go through it next Tuesday, and you will also see this information on the board for the board meeting and for the board agenda on September 24th. The last amendment is that with our lease agreement, that we're so happy and proud to be working with WorkNet Pinellas, after the contract was agreed upon, they had second thoughts on a couple of minor details, so they would like it back and was already placed on the agenda. And this too will be placed on the September 24th board meeting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dr. Grego. And when Dr. Grego and I and other staff members spoke, I did ask him that question as to whether or not any of the implications with putting the information up on the DOE site would have any financial issues and/or concerns, and was assured that they would not. It's just a formality. So regarding amendments to today's agenda, I find good cause to amend the agenda to remove the items described by Dr. Grego. I won't take the time to go through all three of them. I think we all understand that. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? I have a motion. Do I have a second, please? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any that's opposed? We have, for our special order agenda, we have two proclamations that are going to be read. And then after the reading of the proclamations, if you don't mind, we will step down so that we can shake the hands of the newly recognized administrators for today. The first proclamation is a presentation of the proclamation designating the month of September 2019 as American Founders Month. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and board members, and to this community, this is such an important proclamation, and to talk about this proclamation, I'd like to call upon Matt Bloom, the 9 through 12 social studies specialist. He'll be handling both this one and the next one too, so Matt, just stay right there. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. Pinellas County Schools proudly supports American Founders Month during the month of September and celebrate Freedom Week in Florida during the last full week in September, as well as Constitution Day on September 17th. Florida was one of the first states in the country to officially recognize Celebrate Freedom Week as a holiday in 2002, and since then, several other states have passed legislation officially recognizing Celebrate Freedom Week as a week-long recognition of American values contained in our founding documents. While social studies teachers guide students through in-depth lessons throughout the year on the founding of our country, this month, week, and day serve as a special time where we can continue to educate our students and community about the sacrifices made for freedom in the founding of this country and the values on which this country was founded. For these celebrations, additional resources have been provided to all schools to encourage effective instruction, not just during September, but throughout the year on our founding documents and to learn more about the lives and legacies of our founding fathers. American Founders Month, Celebrate Freedom Week, and Constitution Day, and Florida resources are able to be used by schools and teachers in a wide variety of ways to engage our students. Examples can include morning announcements on the history of the flag or trivia questions about our founding fathers and documents. And social studies classes take a deeper look at founding documents like the Constitution and Declaration of Independence to understand how they continue to shape and influence our country today. We are also incredibly fortunate to have wonderful support from our community. For example, our local Florida Sons of the American Revolution organization continues to support teachers and students with professional development, timely resources, and activities that help engage students in understanding our founding fathers and documents. Through generous support from Dr. Robert Safransky, a retired Pinellas County Schools principal and a member of the St. Petersburg Rotary, we're able to provide over 2,000 copies of the Constitution with lesson plans to many of our schools in St. Petersburg. Thank you all for your support of these annual events.
Okay, our proclamation for American Founders Month and Celebrate Freedom Week, September 2019. Whereas during American Founders Month and Celebrate Freedom Week, we focus on better understanding the nation's founding fathers and the sacrifices made for freedom that hold a special place in history of the United States of America and the state of Florida. And whereas during the month of September, all civic, fraternal, and religious organizations, as well as public and private educational institutions, are urged to recognize and observe American Founders Month and celebrate Freedom Week through appropriate programs, services, celebrations in which state, county, and local government officials are invited to participate. And whereas during American Founders Month, schools at all grade levels are encouraged to dive deeply into the history of our nation's founding fathers and the intent, meaning, purpose, and importance of America's founding documents. Now, therefore, we, the School Board of Pinellas County, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 2019 as American Founders Month and the last week of September as a Celebrate Freedom Week in Pinellas County Schools.
Thank you so very much. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the proclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any opposed? Thank you very much, Dr. Carr. Our second presentation of a proclamation is designating September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Each year, Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th by celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. The observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week with a proclamation from President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. The 30-day celebration was officially enacted into law on August 17, 1988, and President George H.W. Bush issued the first proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month on September 14th of 1989. The day of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and 18th, respectively. The theme for Hispanic Heritage Month 2019 is Hispanic Americans, a History of Serving Our Nation. This theme invites us all to reflect on Hispanic American service and contributions to the history of our nation. As we support and promote Hispanic Heritage Month, schools have received additional curriculum support resources through a variety of means that include the Library of Congress, Tolerance.org, and the National Education Association. We look forward to seeing our schools' cultures grow in support of all ethnic groups as they highlight the contributions and achievements of Hispanic and Latino Americans during this month. Thank you again for your support.
Thank you very much. And we have a reading of a proclamation on that, Eileen.
National Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas our nation has drawn strength from the diversity of our people with faith and passion, a sturdy work ethic, and profound devotion to family, Hispanics have helped carry forward our legacy as a vibrant beacon of opportunity for all. Whether their ancestors have been here for generations or they are among the newest members of our American family, they represent many countries and cultures, each adding their own distinct and dynamic perspective to our country's story. In celebration of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we honor the contributions Hispanics have made throughout our history, and we highlight an important part of the rich diversity that keeps our community strong. Whereas this month, let us reflect on the countless ways in which Hispanics have contributed to our nation's success. And let us reaffirm our commitment to expanding opportunity and building an ever brighter future for all. Let us embrace the diversity that strengthens us and continue striving to ensure the American dream is within reach for generations of Hispanics to come. Whereas Congress has authorized and requested the President to issue annually a proclamation designating September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month. Now, therefore, we, the Pinellas County School Board, by virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Pinellas County Schools. And in doing so, we urge all citizens to join in a national effort to recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanics and Latino Americans to the United States and celebrate their heritage and culture.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion with a second to approve the proclamation?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any that are opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, if we could please go down to the front so that we can acknowledge our newly appointed administrators.
Certainly thank you to the board members for recognizing newly appointed administrators. This is a long tradition of this board, and as I call your name, if you come up and please shake the hands of our board members and be recognized. I'll give you a short bio as you're walking up. So our first administrator is Kelly Austin, who's the new principal at Bel Air Elementary School. Kelly Austin began her employment in Pinellas County Schools in 1997. Served as assistant principal at Ridgecrest Elementary School from 2015 until she was appointed to this position. Her background also includes a classroom teacher at Rio Vista Elementary School and Bowder Elementary School. She earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of South Florida and a master's degree in ed leadership from St. Leo University. Congratulations, Kelly Austin. Next is Kimberly Duffy, principal at Lealman Avenue Elementary. Kimberly began her employment in Pinellas County Schools in 2006. She served as the assistant principal at Walsingham Elementary School from 2014 till she was appointed to this position. Her background also includes serving as a classroom teacher at Walsingham Elementary School. She earned a bachelor's degree in behavioral science, elementary, and special education from Mercy College and a master's degree in educational leadership from St. Leo University and in reading from Long Island University. Congratulations, Ms. Duffy. Next is Chad Iben. Chad is the principal of Carwise Middle School. He began his employment in Pinellas County Schools in the year 2000. Served as the assistant principal of Osceola Middle School until he was appointed as principal of Carwise Middle School this past July. Mr. Iben's background also includes serving as a classroom teacher at Palm Harbor Middle School and an assistant principal at Dunedin Highland Middle School. He's earned a bachelor's degree in secondary social science education and a master's degree in ed leadership from the University of South Florida. Congratulations, Chad Iben. Lori Frodine, principal at Pinellas Park Elementary. Lori began her career in education in also the year 2000. Ms. Frodine served as a principal at Parker Elementary School in Houston, Texas from 2012 until she was appointed to this position as principal at Pinellas Park Elementary School. Her background also includes serving in Houston as a classroom teacher, a dean of instruction, and assistant principal. Ms. Frodine's earned a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in ed leadership and cultural studies from the University of Houston. Congratulations, Lori Frodine. Mr. Mike McHugh, principal at Forest Lakes Elementary School. Michael began his employment in Pinellas County Schools in 2013. He served as the assistant principal at Forest Lake Elementary School until he was appointed as principal this past July. Mr. McHugh's background also includes serving as Hillsborough County's as a middle school classroom teacher and assistant principal. He earned his bachelor's degree in middle grades science education from Kent State University and a master's degree in ed leadership from the University of South Florida. Congratulations, Michael McHugh. Tekoa Moses, principal at Maximo Elementary School. Tekoa began her employment in Pinellas County Schools in 2005. She served as the assistant principal at Maximo Elementary School from 2016 until she was appointed as principal at Maximo Elementary this past July. Mrs. Moses' background also includes serving as a teacher assistant at Gulfport Elementary, a classroom teacher at Melrose and 74th Street Elementary School, and assistant principal at Kings Highway Elementary Magnet School. Ms. Moses earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree in ed leadership from the University of South Florida. Congratulations, Mrs. Moses. We have 3 individuals unable to attend because of other commitments. I'd just like to state their name and where they're at, and certainly give them applause too. Let me state all 3 of them. The first was Dina Collins, the new principal at Bay Point Middle School. Her experience is, her background also includes a classroom teacher and assistant principal and she began this past July. The second is Donna Hall, who's currently the principal at Bay Vista Fundamental Elementary School. Her background includes being a substitute teacher, a classroom teacher at Lakewood Elementary School, a reading literacy coach, and assistant principal at Starkey. Elementary School, and then Erin Phelps, principal at Tarpon Springs Middle School. Her background also includes serving as a substitute teacher and a classroom teacher and an assistant principal at Northeast High School from 2015 until she was appointed into this position. Let's give them also a round of applause. This concludes our recognitions, board members. Thank you.
Congratulations again to all of our administrators, newly appointed administrators, and thank you so much for all that you're doing for Pinellas County Schools. Before we move into the next part of our agenda, I just want to share that tonight is also our budget hearing. It is set for 6:30. So if we should happen to go beyond, or right at 6:30 as it relates to any comments from the public, then I'll need to recess the meeting so that we can start the budget hearing at 6:30, and then we'll pick back up where we left off after the budget hearing. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Do we have anyone to speak on public comments for any agenda items, Ms. Ann?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have no speakers signed up this evening for specific agenda items.
Okay, thank you. We have before you your consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Do I have a second? There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our non-consent agenda items, request approval of the 2019-2020 strategic plan. Ms. Dole, Dr. Grego?
Board members, if I could have just a moment to make an introductory comment about our strategic plan, as you have a copy at your desk area. We ought to, as a community, be proud of this plan. This plan started its development in late spring, where we began the process of really taking a look at where we are at as a district, the areas of needed improvement, the areas that we want to continue to grow in, and we started to, as this board started to labor over these things in our first budget workshop in the end of June. We presented the strategic plan in a draft form at the same time as our draft budget, and we continued this process throughout July, brought it back at the end of July, and here we are in our final budget hearing later on this evening. And I want to say thank you to this board for creating a strategic plan that's tied directly to the finances and budget of our school district. And I encourage each and every one of you to of the audience and to the public, as this will be on our website once this board approves it. It's on there now as a draft. But it's well thought out. It's a living document. It's not a document that should be stable or fragment or stagnant. And it really is some of the best thinking that we will continue to grow as a district. So thank you for your leadership to this board, for your patience through the last several months, and let's continue to grow and to really move this document so it does remain a living document. I have to say thank you to Ms. Dull. Jennifer Dull has been a tremendous addition to our district in terms of her expertise in strategic planning and really developing some of the new aspects of this document, some of the major initiatives, strategic directions, strategic initiatives that you see here. This speaks volumes for our district. So Jennifer, thank you for your work and tireless effort to make this document, and not only make it as a document, but rather keep us accountable week after week, month after month of this school year. Thank you so much. If you want to present this to the board, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, staff, and community. It's my pleasure to bring forward the 2019-20 District Strategic Plan for your approval tonight. Just as a reminder to all that are here, that our district strategic plan is grounded in our mission, vision, and core values that our board approved. Every year we look at them and as a cycle of continuous improvement from where we are to where we want to be. And we are pretty audacious in some of our goals as far as really doing stretch percentage point increases on student achievement, while also looking at the conditions to ensure that our staff have what they need and that we are taking into account feedback and community. Some brief examples of some of the good work that has come out of our strategic plan from last year. We did see historic graduation rates once again, so we hit the 86% mark. And that includes a 3.7% increase for Hispanic students, virtually eliminating the gap in our Hispanic graduation rate, as well as a 3.1 percentage point increase for our Black student graduation rate. Since 2013, as we look at our strategic plan as it comes to voluntary pre-K, we have more than doubled the number of classrooms for our VPK programs and entered into a partnership this year to have our own Head Start classrooms staffed by Pinellas County School Board staff. In planning in the 2018-19 year, we are going to be offering some new programs this year based on some of the strategic work that we did last year, including offering Spanish at several of our VPK locations, offering a new collegiate program at Eastlake High School, which will allow our students to earn their associate's degree while they earn their high school diploma at Eastlake, and expanding our dual enrollment options to include the University of Florida. As a driving force for improvement, our strategic plan does have strategic directions. New this year, we added, based on board input, community feedback, really looking hard at communication and stakeholder engagement. So those are some of the new things that people, as you look through our strategic plan, we are really focusing on and prioritizing for improvement as a district. As Dr. Grego said, the district strategic plan is a dynamic document, and in each one of the over 100 action goals has goal managers behind it that put together action plans and work in these on a daily basis to make sure that we are seeing improvement as we move forward. Some of the new things in the one that we're bringing forward for approval tonight, outside of the communication and stakeholder engagement, I do want to mention continued implementation and alignment of restorative practices and positive behavior intervention supports, PBIS, as well as continued look and progress improvement for our subgroups that are under the Every Student Succeed Acts, which includes English learners, economically disadvantaged, and our ESE students. New this year also includes a look at our students experiencing homelessness. So as evidenced by the highlights from last year and looking at what we're having to move forward for this year, I bring forward with pride this year's district strategic plan for your approval.
Dr. Carr.
Thank you for your hard work and staff's work on the strategic plan. Our district strategic plan is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's one of the important functions that we have as a board is to oversee and ensure that it's implemented and the values that we hold dear are included in the strategic plan. One of the opportunities I've had as a board member is to represent this board on our Homeless Leadership Board. And I've been very fortunate to have learned a great deal on the Homeless Leadership Board. And I feel that it is a tremendous addition to include our homeless students as an area where we can identify and improve upon. I just wanted to share, because I'm not sure if folks had the time to receive, but the Homeless Leadership Board did send a letter to this board. And I'm going to read it to share with us. Dear Pinellas County School Board members, at the September 6th meeting of the Pinellas County Homeless Leadership Board, School Board member and Homeless Leadership Board member Nicole Carr announced that one of the strategic goals in the draft of Pinellas County School District Strategic Plan for 1920 includes an action item related to homelessness. Upon hearing this good news, the Homeless Leadership Board members voted unanimously to support the district strategic plan, with particular support for action 4.19, which reads, increase the supports and services for students experiencing homelessness in order to increase academic achievement and performance. The HLB is requesting that the school board adopt the district's 2019-20 strategic plan as it is in alignment with the HLB's vision, quote, to ensure that homelessness is rare, brief, and one time, and the HLB's mission, quote, to coordinate all community partners, systems, and resources available with the goal of helping individuals and families to prevent, divert, and end homelessness in Pinellas County. With the approval of the district's 2019-20 strategic plan, the HLB is looking forward to strengthening our partnership with the Pinellas County School Board as we all work towards increasing supports and services for students experiencing homelessness. Sincerely, Susan Myers, Chief Executive Officer of the Homeless Leadership Board. So I just wanted to share that and also articulate my gratitude while we were noting some of the shortcomings of our State Department of Education, that the new platform of the EduData platform, which does share the results of student achievement and disaggregates that data in a way that helps us further develop strategic planning to include homelessness. So especially for schools with students numbering greater than 10, it's important for those schools that have that high density of high need schools to identify that as a goal and for us to really focus on it. So I look forward to the work that we'll continue to do to identify and work to support our students who are experiencing homelessness.
Thank you. I think that's fabulous that they support us in that. I also want to give a special kudos and just a reminder to the public that the district strategic plan also has components in it where the various schools with their individual school improvement plans feed into the district strategic plan, and they all align. So I know that's one thing that the board has really been working on, because in years past, it was some non-alignment or maybe some confusion about how to make it align, but I think we've worked really well on doing that so that everyone is very clear on every area of the strategic plan and the specific goal implementation components through each strategic goal that we have. So thank you for that work. I really appreciate it, and it seems to be working as relates to focus and guidance and where everyone's going. So good work on this, and hopefully we'll make the draft become a permanent practice. So do we have any other comments? Do we have a motion? Second. To approve? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any that are opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, Ms. Dahl. Request approval of our 2019-2020 school-wide improvement plan. So I kind of jumped the hurdle a little bit on the SIPs, but here you go.
Couldn't ask for a better segue into it. Thank you very much. I don't know if that was planned or not. You know, we were saying before, and Dr. Carr said it was, my comments earlier was just the reason was never to be critical, but let me be complimentary of the department, is that they have established a template of the school improvement template that I think is working better than ever, and is more meaningful, is less cumbersome to our schools. So they've been open to allow our input to what that template should look like, so it's not a lengthy compliance document, but again, more of a living document. So again, thank you to Jennifer for really connecting the school improvement plans to our district strategic plans. Jennifer?
So it is also my pleasure to bring forward the school-wide improvement plans for your approval tonight. Like everyone has said, the alignment between our budget and the district strategic plan down to the school level plans is essential to have real system-wide work as a district. Schools and school teams began engaging in continuous improvement years ago. However, there was a change for this year, as approved in the Florida ESSA plan, which is federally approved. We had to shift towards a different platform. So if people are looking at comparing last year's actual document to this year, there is some changes. However, the components within it, the essential components that align to our district strategic plan, the subgroups, the healthy schools goals, attendance goals, those all remain the same and are in there. But visually, it does look a little different. As we discussed in the July workshop, these are structured to delineate current progress and set forth their path for executing on a plan to deliver outcomes on behalf of our students. These are iterative documents, so once they are approved, it'll go through a process within the statewide platform, and then there will be direct links on the school's websites. So if there is a change to the school-wide improvement plan and it's voted on by their SAC committee, then people will see it automatically as those come in. So that will occur in the next week or so after we approve them here tonight. So with that, I bring forward the school-wide improvement plans for your approval.
And the only thing I want to add to that is, we have some schools that receive their school grades. And while it may not have been reflective that there was any improvement in the school, they actually improved so many percentage points within that school. So sometimes you may not see that improvement when you look at the overall scores on the DOE site. This is just for public information. But if you look in that school improvement plan and you look at the data, you'll see that there is movement of our students in a positive way. And I wanted to share that because I've gotten a couple of phone calls, you know, and if you don't, this is information that you deal with consistently, but you just kind of look at it every now and then, you would think that maybe, and I don't like when people say, I want my child to go to a good school. They are all good schools, and the school improvement plan shows that it's a good school moving to be even better. So I just wanted to kind of.
With that in mind, Dr. Carr mentioned the Edu portal that has the ESSA data for our district, and you can go down to the school level. Our school-wide improvement plans also have the feed from the state, so their ESSA data and their data from the school report cards, all that over time are also in there. So if you're looking for just the data on one school, you can also go through just looking at the school-wide improvement plan.
Thank you. Do we have a motion with a second for the approval?
Move that we accept the school improvement plans for the district.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so very much, Ms. Stewart. Moving on to setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of a public hearing for amendments to our fundamental school magnet programs and career academies. Dr. Greco.
Yes, Madam Chair, and I also want to add that, like this item that we're presenting is a policy change, that this board reviewed this policy as well as the links and the school improvement plans, as well as the strategic plans in several workshops in the months of June and July and even August. So I just want the public to know that you've been looking at this and really working this for a few months now. This is a policy change. I'm going to ask Mr. Hendrick and Ms. Truskowski, who oversees our district application program, to review this board. This is one of the items that came in our last workshop.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and members of the public. We're here to take a look at policy 2250, Fundamental Schools, Magnet Programs, and Career Academies. The actual policy language for this policy is not lengthy, but refers to changes within the Procedures for District Application Programs document, which is incorporated explicitly within the policy language. We annually update this, and this year, the policy itself is changing to reflect fundamental schools and magnet programs in the title. To give you information on the changes that were described at the workshop and for the public, I've asked Ms. Truskowski, our district application program specialist who heads this work, to share those.
Thank you. Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego and staff, just as a review from the August 20th school board workshop, we have several major changes that are coming or being proposed, or bigger changes. Two of them are the addition of new programs. We have the Center for Literacy and Innovation at Elisa Nelson Elementary. We also have a dual language immersion program at Garrison Jones Elementary School. In addition, there's a couple of programs that are requesting name changes. One is Kings Highway Elementary, going from the Center of Innovation and Digital Learning, named to be changed to the Center of Digital Learning and STEAM. Melrose Elementary School, John Hopkins Middle School, and Lakewood High School would be adding communications. So going from the Center of Journalism and Multimedia to the Centers of Communications, Journalism, and Multimedia. In addition, we've added and rearranged some language at the end of each school year. People who are in current DAP programs that are applying for other ones have to make a decision to whether to stay at their school and come off the wait list, or to go to their zone school. There's been some confusion, so response to families, we have made the changes in the document. We've also added some clarifying verbiage to ensure district compliance with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And then, as Mr. Hendricks said, changing the names to change away from the DAP career academies due to confusion with high school career academies. In addition to that, there's a summary documentation that goes through the individual changes. Second reading is scheduled for October 22nd. And thank you for your considerations with these changes.
Under 7.9, approval for Teens for Arts Education.
Can you turn on her mic?
Through 2019 through June 2020? Is that how long we're going to be doing this program?
I believe that was on the consent agenda, is that right? 7.9? This is
Yeah,
8.3?
September 10th, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And that's $137,500.
School Board Member Latino, where are you looking at? What?
I'm looking at 7.9.
You're on that's the consent agenda that we've already approved.
Right.
We're on the non-consent agenda, item number 8.3.
Well, that just flew right by me.
But it would be through June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the end of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Are there any other? I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, that, I see it now. That's an agreement with the Arts Conservatory, and that is, yes, is through today, through the end of this school year, to work in partnership with the Arts Conservatory.
All right.
Yeah, $137,500, yes.
With Alex Harris that runs that program.
Right, right. And if you need additional information, I'd be happy to provide
Okay,
that to you.
thanks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Grego. Dr. Carr, I'm sorry.
With regards to 8.3, I think at our last workshop, I had also asked that we discuss the implications of not having and potential unintended consequences of not having busing to our fundamental schools and how that's impacted student enrollment. So I just wanted to follow up and make sure that that would be included for future discussion.
Yes, we are. We're assembling that information based on our discussion in the last workshop, cost, implications, and so forth. But yes, absolutely.
We don't have a motion yet. I was trying to get all the questions, to make sure all the questions were being
I
answered.
move that we accept the changes to the fundamental school document, district application.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay. So please let the record reflect that we have one nay and the remainder yays.
What's that?
Because you're just going to pull it out of a hat. Bus drivers, right?
This item wasn't in reference to adding any additional. It was really just some magnet programs were requesting name changes. So the programs are currently at the schools. They were just changing some of their names, but it's not adding another school where we would have to add another bus route. It's not doing that. There's no additional impact, if you will, to the current transportation.
So the current transportation now is we have a bus driver to drive those kids around, right? To take them to a fundamental school?
No.
She's asking us to look into, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, she's asking us to look into doing that in the future. We did not just vote
All right.
to provide transportation to fundamental schools.
All right.
Yeah. Just future conversation.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, that's fine. We're all a family up here, we're working together. So, all right, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. Moving on to 8.4, setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of a public hearing for non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunities.
Yes, Madam Chair, and to the public, this is a part of a policy change based on the requirements of the last legislative session, and Mr. Kapersky has worked this issue, and I'd ask that he review it again with the board. We discussed this in the last workshop also.
Thank you, Dr. Grego, Madam Chair, and board members. This past legislative session, House Bill 741 amended the Florida Educational Equity Act to add religion to the list of bases upon which school boards and school districts may not discriminate. I want to reiterate that this does not change our practice at all. We have had in over a dozen other policies religion as listed as a ground upon which we will not discriminate. We do not discriminate on the basis of religion, and we have no plans to. But this policy mirrors that act, and so with the legislature changing that, we now need to add religion to this policy as well. Thank you.
Do we have any comments, questions, or concerns? And again, this is something that was passed by the state legislature in the last session. It's not something that was initiated by the district. So we're following the rule of law that we have to follow. Do we have a motion to approve with a second?
Motion. Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any that are opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to request adoption of the proposed Pinellas County School Board's 2020 legislative platform.
Yes, Madam Chair, and to School Board, I want to again thank you for this work. A lot of organizations look to you as a board in Pinellas County and look to your lead. I'll be meeting with Superintendent starting the rest of this week. Tomorrow we meet in Tampa, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are finalizing ours, and many of these things are absolutely in alignment with what we've assembled in Pinellas County. I know the Florida School Boards Association, later after this item, you're going to be talking about the coalition piece, but I think you've done a masterful job of keeping your legislative platform simple, to the point, and it's extremely concise, so our elected officials and the general public can certainly understand it. If you will, I don't mind for the public just hitting some of the highlights, Madam Chair, because I can say to you that this highlight, and I'm not just saying this because there's a bunch of teachers, a group of teachers here, I really appreciate that, but the top priority of the Superintendent's Association, I really is important that this board joins in, is the increased teacher salaries in the state of Florida, and we're just kind of tired of having the ranking of teacher salaries always being way below the median in the United States. So that's number one in your legislative priority. It's number one in the superintendent's, and it's certainly going to be my primary talking point and my primary issue during this upcoming session. In addition to that, we're taking a look at general operating dollars, the base student allocation of a 3% increase. This is to cover everything from the electric bill to the diesel fuel and many other aspects of healthcare and so forth for our employees. We're focusing very keenly on the high-quality early learning work of the voluntary pre-K and beyond, and work to be done with the Early Learning Coalition. It's a major way that we're going to close the achievement gap, especially in some neighbors of high poverty. We're looking at the required local effort in the millage. As you know, the last few years, the state legislators have not allowed that required local effort to increase as the property appraisals have increased. And Mr. Smith, and during the budget presentation, will be covering this in a little while. But I certainly thank the board for your discussion on this. In addition, you know, the state is looking at the revamping, or at least a re-examination of the district cost differential. We want to make sure that this is a benefit to Pinellas County. This is not, this is cost of living in this district for our teachers and everyone else is high. We want to make sure that our resources are there to help them with that. That's one of the categories that this board puts in there: keep students first. Keep learners engaged. We're looking at some appropriations to extend our summer camp acceleration, our internship, our apprenticeship programs. We're looking to hopefully try to get tax credits to some of the businesses to support our students in these internships and apprenticeships. We're looking at developing and supporting our workforce development program, our technical colleges, both in St. Pete and Clearwater, tremendous assets to this community, yet the state hasn't really fully funded the performance and the growth of these tremendous schools. And then also to include career dual enrollment and apprenticeships in the acceleration component of the school letter grade. When we take a look at keeping our students and families first and schools safe, we're asking, and you're asking, the state to fully fund the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act in terms of what we
Amen.
are looking at. We spend about $11.5 million in Safe Schools funds, in which we receive 6.1, Mr. Smith, 6.1 or $6.2 million. That $5 million has to come from someplace, and we're asking the state to fully fund that, and also alongside of that with mental health support of our schools and our teachers. And the last category this board is focused on is our facilities, world-class facilities. We're looking at trying to, as a board, to try to build a training facility for our teachers right here in Pinellas County. We don't have one right now, and we want a full-fledged, modern, 21st century one that our teachers and administrators so well deserve. We're also looking for support in the 2 mills that the state has reduced for about 6 or 7 years now. Those dollars could be used to modernize our schools in our aging infrastructure. So as you have listed on the bottom of this legislative priority, if our school district had 2.0 mills, Pinellas County would have leveraged over the last few years. It was reduced. That's $485 million that we could be really modernizing all of our schools. I thank the board for your aggressive capital plan, but just think about all that we could be doing and how fast we could be doing to provide those facilities to this community. Again, it's going to be a session the committees are going to be starting. I'm already having conversations with our elected officials. I bring this to you and I bring this to them, and I'm having some very pointed conversations with them. So thank you to the board, and any comments from the board certainly are welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Grego. And we also could use the community's help.
Absolutely.
By visiting or calling or emailing your representatives, and even ones who are not necessarily your specific representative but serve on the Pinellas County delegation, to make sure that they also hear from parents and teachers and support professional staff the things that our district need in order to make sure that we continue to do the very best job that we can and focus on student education and making sure that teachers have all of the equipment that they need, that we're following with our safety and security protocols, and that things continue to run smoothly, to include capital improvement funds, because this district has been very forward and the board has been very supportive in going out for bonds to build or extreme rehabs on some of our facilities. But we have, I think, some additional work that needs to be done, and we certainly could use those dollars, as well as following in line with what it is that the governor says is one of his main mantras, and that's technical trades education. And I think Pinellas County is doing really, really good in that area, both certification programs for our high schoolers, as well as our Pinellas Technical College, St. Petersburg, and Clearwater campus. On Thursday, School Board member Eileen Long and I will be at the Florida School Board Association Legislative Conference in Orlando. It's an opportunity for us to share what our platform is. More often than not, they align with the platform of the other 66 counties, but every now and then we have something that comes up that is very forward-thinking, and we all look at supporting. So to my colleagues, if you have anything you want us to take, please feel free to get that to Ann Simonetti so that we can share that with the group on Thursday. And then to my colleagues, I'm very grateful and thankful to the subcommittee that met. That's Carol, School Board Member Lisa Kane, and School Board Member Carr, Dr. Carr, anyone else? For working on putting the platform information together, putting together the time that we'll be able to spend with our legislators. So thank you also very much for doing that. Great job.
With the help of Jennifer Dull and Lori Matway.
Jennifer Dull and Lori Matway, thank you so very much. So I appreciate that. If there are no other comments, do we have a motion to adopt our proposed 2020 legislative program?
Motion to adopt.
Do we have a second? It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Thank you all very much. And moving on to the proposed adoption for the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards 2020 legislative platform. This will be Dr. Grego and School Board Member Carol Cook tag teaming on this one.
Yes, this is actually a grouping of school boards and superintendents, but districts that have assembled in the consortium, and I know Mrs. Cook and I think Mrs. Long, both are on this, so I'm going to turn it over to you. This is you've attended and have been very active members of this coalition, and I want to thank you because in numbers we're stronger, and so thank you for participating.
Good, thank you. The consortium to which we belong is made up of 10 of the coastal counties. It starts at St. Lucie County on the East Coast, and so it's St. Lucie, Martin, Broward, Miami-Dade, Monroe, Collier, Lee, Charlotte, Sarasota, and Pinellas. And with that grouping, the coastal counties sometimes have some things that are more in common than we might have with people in the Panhandle or in the central part of the state. So we look at items that are there things that we need to take into consideration and lobby our legislators specifically for coastal county issues. We make up about 43% of the students in the state of Florida. And so working together, we leverage that volume also with a lot of our delegation legislators that are in power and heads of committees and things like that, so that we're able to say this is what we're bringing forward. This year we had many of the same things that are on the Pinellas County legislative platform. And we looked at it as, are these things unique to our area? And we said, not only are they unique, they are necessary, but oh, guess what? They're statewide. And so we decided that we were going to go for them anyway and give an extra push so that we could target specific legislators to go to them when we're in Tallahassee or when we are locally talking with our delegation, so that we are making sure that we're talking with members of the committees over which these decisions will be made. So we're hoping to be successful, but we're starting, again, we're also starting right now with our conversations that we're having. One of the things that and I'm just going to hit highlights for a few of them. One of them is raising the base student allocation. We've put in ours that we would, in the consortiums, that we would like it to be raised by 5%. That base student allocation gives us the money that we can spend on salaries, on health care, on the things that we have just to run the district that don't have mandates and things like that attached to them. We're also asking for them to restore the full calculation for the required local effort, to restore the 2 mills for capital improvements. I don't know that we're going to make a whole lot of progress with that one, but we're going to move forward with it and continue to ask for it. To fully fund the state mandate of 1 officer in each school by increasing the amount of money for the safe school allocation. They have some money there, but as you know, we've had to put money from our budget in to make up the difference between what it costs us and what was allocated. And so we're asking that they fully fund it so that they would increase that dollar figure. And then also, along those same lines, redirect any of the unused money from the Guardian program and put that into the Safe Schools program so that that money can be used by districts that chose to put officers in their schools or to put security people as opposed to the full definition of the Guardian program. One of the other things that we also added to this platform is really looking at pre-K and the readiness for students so that they are ready to start in kindergarten, and what we would want in the way of the high quality, going to a full day program, for example, pushing for that, and also renaming the education statute to include the pre-K teachers, allowing certified preschool teachers to be included in the incentives and retirements that are afforded to the K-12 so that we can get some high-quality teachers working with our pre-K students, preparing them because they're laying the groundwork for what we do K through 12. And I think those are the biggest highlights. But again, we're looking at safe school infrastructure, continuing to do that. We wanted to make sure they understood we are doing what we've asked, but it's going to cost us money to continue to do that. And also expand the turnaround school supplement services allocation for our Title I schools and all the wraparound services. We want to make sure they don't forget it, but also look at what the needs are and expand that. So those are the highlights of the consortium. Now, what ends up happening is each one of the members, each one of those school districts, those 10 school districts, will take it back to their boards, which we're doing tonight, and voting on it. If we take any item out as a board and do not vote to include that, it will no longer be in anybody's. It's an all or nothing. We have 100% support for the items that we end up including in there. So far, Lee County and Broward County have both approved it in its entirety, and the others will be doing it before October. So, did I leave anything out?
No.
No.
Got it.
Yeah, okay, good. I appreciate Ms. Long going down there with us and kind of getting involved and seeing what it's all about, because the consortium has a pretty good conversation as we're moving forward and coming up with it. So, but it's very much in keeping with what we're doing in Pinellas County, which is good for us, if, because what we're pushing forward, the consortium will also be supporting and moving forward. So with that, I make a motion that we accept the Greater Florida Consortium School Board's proposed platform in its entirety.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any that are opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and thank you so very much. Also, when we're in Tallahassee, which has been moved up through the Florida School Board Association, it's a time when we can all come together as well to make sure that we're all on the same page when we hit the Hill. And I'm very excited that the dates for the Florida School Board Association Legislative Day has been moved up to when the committees are meeting and we can be more effective. So I'm excited about that, but that does not prohibit us from still trying to reach them local. And if I'm not mistaken, they've already started committee meetings today. So yes, it's going to be exciting, and I promise to behave.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
It's on behalf of good stuff, though. So thank you all so very much for all of the hard work that all of my colleagues are doing when it comes to representing our interests. Moving on to new business. We are very close, but I'm going to try to keep moving and do as much as we can before 6:30. Items introduced by the superintendent.
I'll make it really brief. I do want to publicly say thank you to this entire community, to all of our school leaders, as we were faced with a potential, well, not a potential, but at least to hit Hurricane Dorian,
Yes, Lord.
who that luckily stayed outside of the coast of Florida and continued on its path. I know that some folks in Bermuda were not as fortunate, and so I know that the Council of Great City Schools has reached out to a number of school districts, especially as people are fleeing there to come to Florida. But let me say, and especially to Mr. Herbeck here, and a huge thank you, because he gets into his hurricane mode, and when he does that, everything is logistics and move out of the way. And to the county, Kathy Perkins, our new EOC leader there, just a pleasure to work with, and everyone in the county. This was good. This was good. It was a good test run. Let's never do it again.
I don't want to do it.
But we really, I felt like we were well prepared. Our principals, thank you, for late Friday evening, before the weekend, before the Labor Day weekend, where everyone wanted to have the 3 days. Our principals were up here in this building preparing for, you always prepare for the worst and wish for the best. And they did a remarkable job, and they were on call the entire weekend. I think he let them rest maybe on Monday or Tuesday of that Labor Day weekend. I did send out a communication that with 1 day, with the number of hours, Dr. Rita Vasquez and others is calculated that we will be okay. We will not have to make up that 1 day. However, I also said in real bold letters that hurricane season is not over. Still has another 11 weeks. It's officially over in December. So just keep in mind that if these days start to add up, our calendar committee and this board approved those days to make up for hurricane. But at this time, we do not have to make up that day, and we'll follow the 2019-2020 calendar as planned. So thank you to the board for your communications along the way. One last honor, because it was, well, two really, was just received recently. The top honor of our district is one of the top 10 digital districts in the United States. Our use of digital instructional materials and digital, the use of digital technology to extend the learning day of our students, our platforms, our pathways that we use, our laptops that we send home with many of our students are really being recognized by the Learning Council, and we will be recognized as one of the top districts this November, excuse me, in Dallas during their national conference. Also today, the Pinellas County Schools has earned the Florida Healthy Schools District Gold Level Achievement, and this is a coalition that recognizes the top school districts that really pay attention to all aspects of healthy living, whether it's food, nutrition, exercise, and so forth. And so the kudos to the board for your support of that. So thank you very much. I'll keep this brief and look forward to the budget hearing.
Thank you, sir. Items introduced by the school board attorney.
I have nothing this evening. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Items introduced by board members. We'll start, and then if we have to stop in between, it'll be because it's 6:30. So we'll start, so whoever wants to go first.
My report is, I attended the countywide graduation at Ruth Eckerd Hall, located at 1111 McMullen Booth Road in Clearwater. It was a very festive event. New Heights Elementary was canceled due to the Hurricane Dorian. Medal of Honor was presented at Highland Lakes Elementary School, and I have that little thing here, and Safety Harbor Middle School. I also visited the Adult Education Center in Clearwater. It was informative and a very worthwhile visit. We had so many diverse people. It was just overwhelming that we had so many diverse people in those classrooms, and you know, there were people that were reading, and there were people that were working on the computers, and a variety of things. I attended the St. Petersburg Collegiate High School Tarpon Springs ribbon cutting presentation at the BB building of the Tarpon Springs campus, and this is when Mrs. Tanya, she took reins and she made a speech, and she was very well poised and very well presented. Saturday on September 6th, I attended the Pinellas County Classroom PTA annual fall workshop and general session at Pinellas Park High School. And this is the folder that we have been given, and all these sponsors are listed in here. So I would hope that the classroom is finished now, but we would really appreciate if you would reach out to them and make an extra effort to reach out to the people that are supporting this. And then also the Pinellas County Career and College and Career Fair hosted by Countryside High School. We have these little flags, all these little flags here. And it was very informative, and the date is on October 7th, and it's 6 to 8 p.m. So be there or be square.
Thank you very much. Ms. Long?
Yes, I just wanted to give kudos. Yesterday I attended the Dunedin Principals Quarterly Meeting. It's with all the principals of Dunedin, one of the city commissioners, Debbie Kynes, the head librarian, different community sponsors. A year ago, Heather Gracie and I started with Dr. Grego, Growing Greatness in Dunedin. And not even a year, our schools in Dunedin have just exploded with wonderful programs. Garrison Jones went to an A. Their dual language program has kids coming in. We hope to expand. San Jose is doing the Giving Back program with Dunedin High School basketball team, where older students are coming, and every twice a week they're mentoring. They were going to do it with Dunedin, but Dunedin has other programs, so Garrison Jones has asked to participate. And the high school has really, their attendance is up. They've won 3 football games in a row, and for Dunedin, that's incredible, so let's give them kudos. But we are really starting to show that greatness in Dunedin, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Kennedy for working so hard, and to the principals and the teachers. It really is starting to become a community of homegrown, wonderful, tight relationships. And it just shows that when you come together, you really can do great things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane.
Thank you so much. I had an opportunity also to visit Cypress Woods Elementary a couple of weeks ago. I attended their volunteer and community partnership organizational meeting, and it was a really great experience. They're doing a lot, reaching out to community members for different events for their individual school. I kind of snuck in there. They didn't know I was coming, and it was really fun to be one of the community people there, and they just did an amazing job. So big kudos to Cypress Woods for working really hard on that. There's a couple events I just wanted to highlight. I know we're on a time crunch. Tomorrow is September 11th. There are a lot of events going on throughout the community. I know Curlin Hills in Palm Harbor is doing their annual memorial event. It is a very moving event. Last year they had the flyover from the Coast Guard and so forth. There's a lot of community members present. So if you can make it, it's at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Also, all teachers, on October 14th, there is a teacher appreciation breakfast at 7:30 at Inverness Hall in Innisbrook. This is hosted by the Palm Harbor Chamber of Commerce. It is a big, huge thank you to from the Palm Harbor community to teachers for all the hard work that they do. There's no cost for the event. If you are interested in attending, please contact the Palm Harbor Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Carr.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to get to Walsingham Elementary School and I just wanted to express thank you for their graciousness, and the classrooms were so incredibly well thought through, and the intentionality of each one of the classrooms and the level of engagement with students was really remarkable and impressive, and it was great to have the chance to get out there. And it was also, I also met with some individuals who had several questions about the FLEC committee, and I referenced it in policy and I would like some follow-up with some information about who exactly is on the FLEC committee and its current role and function and how they're appointed, because there was some concerns about how folks are appointed, when the meetings take place. I recognize they're not publicly noticed meetings. However, I'd like us to look at that a little bit further to see exactly, what is it that committee is exactly doing, and is it in alignment with what specifically is stated in policy.
Okay, so we are right at 1 minute to 6:30. So for those of us that may have any additional comments, and then for the balance of the agenda, I'm going to recess this portion of the meeting so that we can start the budget hearing right on time. So at this point, I'm going to recess the school board meeting. For those of you that are standing, I don't want the fire marshal to get me. So it's some seats. There it is. He's calling. So you couldn't have done that at a better time. So for those of you that are standing, it's some seats up here. I know no one likes to sit at the front of the class, but it's some seats up here. And then if all of those seats are full, then I would ask staff if we could roll back the divider. But I just don't want to get in trouble with the fire marshal with folks standing. So give us let's do like a 5 minute of a little 5 minute, 5 minutes to kind of get things together where they need to be, and then we will be right back with you. Thank you all so very much. Hello, everyone. We are going to get started. Oh, I did that kind of loud, didn't I? I didn't mean anything bad. I was just trying to get your attention. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so very much for those of you that are staying for our budget public hearing. We have every school board member here, so thank you so very much. I am going to ask that if we could, if you don't mind, if we could kind of keep the side conversations to a minimum, because there's some really good information that will be presented, and I want to make sure that anyone that's listening that wasn't able to get in here, that they're able to hear it, and then our presenters are able to present as well, okay? So we'll go ahead and start with the adoption of the agenda.
So the approval of the agenda?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We'll have our introductory comments by Dr. Grego.
Thank you, Madam Chair and school board, and to the general public. And I want to welcome you to the second and final of two public hearings of the 2019-2020 budget. Board members, I want to again thank you for the work that you've done over the last several months and your interest in assisting in formulating this budget. As you know, this budget is tied directly to, as I mentioned earlier, to our strategic plan. The budget was initially presented to you in great details at our June 25th board workshop, and the tentative millage rates and preliminary budget was then formally approved at the July 30th public hearing. That was our first public hearing. The budget before you tonight is the final proposed budget and millage rates for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Once again, thank this board for your willingness and to work with staff in formulating this budget. I also want to extend my thanks to our Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Smith, and his entire staff for pulling and putting this budget together. And I want to introduce him now, and as he will make some introductory comments and present the proposed millage and budget. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. Grego, before we do that, I missed my part, so if I can read this, please.
Please do.
I'm sorry. That's okay. Tonight, we're here to review the proposed property tax rates and budget for 2019-2020 school year, hear comments from the public, and approve the proposed millage rates and budget. The order of business and actions taken tonight must follow specific directions set forth in the state statutes, and we ask for your cooperation as we go through the legally required format. There will be two opportunities for you to speak this evening. First, you may comment on the proposed millage rates. Second, you may comment on the proposed budget. If you wish to speak, you must register separately for each part of the hearing with our staff member at the entrance to the boardroom. On behalf of the school board and the superintendent, I do thank each and every one of you for attending on this evening. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Dr. Grego. And as mentioned a moment ago, this does have to follow a specific order as prescribed by state statute. As I mentioned in the first public hearing, the material in that public hearing was projected since the fiscal year had not yet closed. However, the fiscal year has closed, and this document contains comparative information for the actual results of the 18-19 fiscal year and the proposed 19-20 budget. As you'll hear in a few minutes, this budget once again recommends a lower millage rate, which has been a trend over the last several years. In fact, it's just over 3.8 mils. Just a few years ago, it was a little bit over 5 mils, which is about a 24% decrease. So it's a constant trend that we're facing over the last several years, and we have to try and turn that trend around to increase the funding in total for our district and for all districts. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Karen Coffey, Executive Director of Budget and Resource Allocation, who'll present the proposed millage, who'll be followed by Ms. Lan Jordan, Manager of FTE Cost Reporting, who'll present the proposed budget.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, Dr. Grego, Madam Chair, board members, and staff. Trim or a truth in millage requires school districts to advertise their proposed budget and millage rates annually. The district's 2019-20 millage is comprised of the general operating millage, which includes the required local effort, discretionary, and local referendum. The Florida Department of Education certifies the state-required local effort, commonly known as the RLE millage rate, that must be levied by the school board to generate its local share of funding for the district through the FDFP. The local referendum of 0.5 mil was initially approved by the voters in 2005, 2006, and was approved for the fourth time in 2016-17 for a 4-year period. The proposed millage also includes the capital outlay 1.5 mil. What is the rolled back millage rate? It's the millage rate that would generate the same amount of revenue as last year if applied to the current tax roll after adjusting for new construction. The 2019-20 proposed millage of 6.584 is higher than the rolled back rate by 3.81%. The gross property tax value of approximately $92.86 billion is an increase from last year's value by 7.2% or $6.2 billion. This is the 6th consecutive year where we've had an increase of 7% or greater. Comparing the current and prior year millage rates, you can see the total levied millage rate in 2018-19 was 6.727, and for 2019-20, our proposed total levied millage is 6.584. This is an overall decrease of about 2.1%. You will note the required local effort has decreased by 3.59%. Our property tax revenue comparison shows an increase in revenue of $27.3 million over last year's proceeds. This is the result of an increase in our property tax roll. Our required local effort is increasing by about $10.9 million. The proposed discretionary millage will generate about $4.5 million more, and the referendum will yield an additional $3 million. The capital outlay millage will generate $8.9 million more, also as a result of a property value increase. The required local effort is an appropriated amount set by the Florida Department of Education. The school board must levy this amount in order to receive state funding. It is used for the day-to-day operations such as school staff and utilities. The discretionary millage is used for general operations of the district and to meet additional costs due to inflation. The local referendum dollars are used to recruit and retain quality teachers, preserve reading, art, and music programs, and provides up-to-date textbooks and technology. The capital outlay millage is the district's primary funding source for maintenance, renovations, and new construction, as well as equipment, as advertised on July 27th. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to the board chair to allow for public input and for the motions necessary to adopt the millage. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Mineta, do we have any speakers?
There are no speakers on the millage rate.
Okay. So may we please have 5.2, which is approval of the discretionary local effort millage. 5.2. I'm sorry, 5.3. 5.3, I'm sorry. Lisa?
Motion is necessary to adopt millage rates following public comments. 1, approval of discretionary local effort millage. I move that the board approve the levying of a discretionary local effort millage of 0.748 mils as part of the total millage to be certified to the property appraiser and Florida Department of Revenue. 2, adoption
If
of...
you could stop, they would have to be taken one at a time.
All right.
So, yeah, Lisa was supposed to read the first one and you the second, but I'll have Lisa read the second.
All right.
So we'll stop at number 1. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, Lisa, if you could read the adoption of the total millage rates.
I move that the board adopt a millage rate of 6.584 mils to be set and certified to the property appraiser and to the Florida Department of Revenue, The millage rates are as follows. For required local effort, 3.836 mils. For discretionary local effort, 0.748 mils. For local referendum, 0.500 mils. And for capital outlay, 1.500 mils. Total millage, 6.584 mils. This rate is 3.81% higher than the rolled back rate.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Motion carries. Now for the proposed 2019-2020 budget, including public comments to follow.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. I'll continue tonight's presentation with an overview of the district's proposed budget for 2019-20. Certain parameters guide the building of the budget. We strive to and have been able to maintain a 63-37 ratio. This means at least 63% of all expenses are for direct instruction or in the classroom, and 37% are related to other areas such as instructional support, plan operations, and administration. Over the past several years, we have exceeded that benchmark. In short, at least 2/3 of all funding goes toward expenditures in the classroom. We are required by statute to maintain a minimum 3% contingency, while district policy states we are to maintain a minimum 5% contingency. This budget projects our contingency to be approximately 7% at the end of the 2019-20 fiscal year. We also budget so as to support our core curriculum and strategic directions. The majority of our budget is in our general fund. This year it is proposed to be approximately $976 million. The second largest funding source is capital outlay at $323 million. The district's self-insured health fund is anticipated to be approximately $156 million and represents the district's third largest fund. The total proposed budget for all funds this year is approximately $1.6 billion. Looking at the budget summary for all revenue sources, you see that 62% of the total budget comes from the general fund. Capital outlay accounts for just over 20%. The combined total of these two funds comprises approximately 83% of our entire budget. The new year brings several legislative changes. The base student allocation, or BSA, has increased to $4,279.49. This is an increase of $75.07, or 1.8% over last year's BSA. Statewide, funding increased $555.6 million, or $25.3 million to Pinellas, which includes $9.7 million in teacher and principal best and brightest funds. Statewide funding for the Safe Schools allocation increased $0.8 million to be utilized for additional school safety personnel. Changes in the Florida retirement system contribution rate are projected to increase district expenditures. A new turnaround supplemental services allocation of $45.5 million statewide was added for fiscal year 1920, benefiting district-managed turnaround schools. Lastly, the digital classrooms allocation was decreased by $50 million statewide. This impacted Pinellas with a reduction of $1.4 million from the prior year's funding level. Total operating fund resources are anticipated to be approximately $976 million. Of that, about $483 million comes from local sources, which includes the half-mil referendum. Approximately $382 million comes from state sources. The Florida Education Finance Program, or FEFP, is the general fund's primary funding source. The FEFP funding formula utilizes a combination of state and local resources to fund education. Looking at the operating revenue budget graphically, you'll note that local sources represent almost 50% of the total operating budget, and state sources account for 39%. The remaining 11% comes from transfers and fund balance. The operating budget is used to fund the day-to-day operating expenditures of the district. It pays for salaries and benefits, supplies and materials, textbooks, student transportation, utilities, maintenance, and repairs. Viewing the distribution of our operating budget by object, there's little change from previous years. About 62% of our budget is spent on salaries and 20% on benefits. In total, approximately 82% of our operating budget goes towards staffing. Capital outlay funds include revenue from both state and local sources. This fund reflects revenue and expenditures for construction and renovation of school buildings and grounds. The majority of these funds are generated by the local capital improvement millage, which is set by law and limited to 1.5 mils. This year, no PICO funds are expected for traditional district schools. Our proposed capital outlay budget is approximately $323 million. The budget reflects $148 million in new revenue and $292 million in proposed appropriations. The special revenue budget is comprised of two major categories of federal funds, contracted programs and food service. The total contracted programs budget is approximately $43 million. This budget starts the year off low and builds as the year goes on, as we don't recognize or book the revenue until it is received. Food service is a self-sustaining fund as it receives no dollars from the operating fund. Federal reimbursements and local collections are the primary revenue sources. The proposed food service budget is approximately $55 million. The debt service fund is used to account for the payment of general long-term debt, principal, and interest. The district categorizes the debt service fund into two groups. First, State Board of Education bonds, or SBE bonds, account for principal and interest payments for bonds issued by the state of Florida on the district's behalf in February of 2000. The current principal balance is $600,000. This debt will be paid off by 2021. The remaining budget of $6.6 million represents the debt service for COPS bonds issued by the district. The proposed self-insured workers' compensation and liability budget of $5.2 million accounts for the premium revenue and expenditures associated with the district's self-insured workers' compensation and liability insurance programs. The self-insured health fund accounts for the district's premium revenue and claim expenditures with a budget of approximately $156 million. The proposed budget and all supporting documents are on file in the Office of Budget and Resource Allocation. This information can also be found online. At this point, I'll turn the meeting back to the board chair to allow for public comment and the motions necessary to adopt the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any requests for public comment from the audience?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 4 speakers this evening on budget. Our first 2 are Paul Zanger and Paula Stevens.
Paul Zanger. Either one. I just have a few comments that I'd just like to get into the public record. And the one thing I did promise some coworkers and my wife was I wouldn't say or do anything that would get TV coverage. So they don't want to see me on Bay News 9. The first thing I want to mention is it's got nothing to do with me or the teachers. It has to do with transportation. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I have to ride the bus. I'm an EBD associate, and I have to ride the bus with my kids. My understanding is these guys go through their training, and they can leave and take their CDL license and training with them. And there is no minimum requirement for them to stay after we've trained them. And training for that is anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. And we don't have anything written. So as an EBD associate who rides the bus, I do see a lot of turnover, and that's not great for my EBD kids. That's why I'm on the bus. So all of that, and there's a ripple effect that goes through the rest of the school and the dismissal process and that kind of stuff. I understand, too, that just Friday we were 52 routes short of drivers, and yet we pay for their training and they can take it and go with no responsibility. Okay, in terms of pay, I can tell you, I took the job. Everybody says, you know what you we're getting paid. But you know what? You know how little I make? And I believe that I'm a reasonably educated, talented professional. I can't even spread my salary over 12 months. I mean, how low does it have to be that I can't go, you know what you pay me over 10, I'd like to just spread it over 12. Sorry, we can't do it. It's too low. The system won't tax it properly. Does that make any sense? I mean, ridiculous. Okay, I would venture too in terms of EBD. We label them. The school district labels my kids EBD, emotional behavior disorders. That's in the DSM. If we're going to label them with a mental health disorder, then we should be providing mental health treatment. Thank you. Thank you.
One moment. I do appreciate, but for those of you that have been returning, you know what the request or the standard is. So feel free to do shaky hands, but if you could please refrain from the clapping. We want to make sure that everyone has ample time to speak.
Don't take up my
Please
time.
don't take away from his minutes.
I met Dr.
Excuse me, what did you say?
Me?
No, not you.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
Yeah.
was just making sure
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
on one accord. We're going to be respectful.
I had the
Thank you.
opportunity to meet Dr. Greco at the school that I work at, Belcher Elementary, and I suggested that this was after the Marjorie Stone Douglas Act. I suggested that we do civil disobedience, and instead of hiring these armed guards that we were forced to hire, that we could just hire mental health professionals, and we just code them as armed guards. I think, honestly, I think there's no court in the nation, if we challenge the state, if Pinellas County challenged the state, that anyone would say, oh, no, you have to. Is that my 3 minutes?
Did we keep his time from when okay, I wanted to make sure.
And finally.
I have to stop you though, because they did give you your time. They gave you the extra
You
time.
gave me back my time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But thank
all
you
right.
so very much for
Thank you.
coming, and
All
I
right.
appreciate
See you
your
next month.
comments. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Hi.
Hi, my name is Paula Stevens, and I am speaking on as an individual. I am the daughter of a mother and father who've been married for 57 years. I've been a wife for 22, and I am the proud mother of 2 Pinellas County School graduates. And I've been a teacher for 22 years, and I love my job. I do. I love my job. However, as a teacher, instead of going out and working a second educational job, I also am I'm also my school's pro-ed facilitator. I'm a 3rd grade lab manager. I spend I teach 2 afternoon STEM academies. I do 1 day of promise time, and I also I work contract services for our K-12 STEM department, all to help supplement my income. I'm in a unique situation this year. I have a daughter who wants to be a teacher, and she will graduate in December of this year and hopefully be teaching, I'm hoping, in Pinellas County Schools in January. When I started back in September of 1998, I was making $27,800. Currently, I'm making $53,904. So over 21 years, you value my experience at about $1,200 a year. In 2019, a starting teacher will make $43,809. So I'm proud that my daughter will start at that. However, that is only $10,000 more than I am currently making after 21 years of service. So if I divide that by 21 years, the $10,000, you're valuing my experience as a teacher as $480.71 a year. I used to laugh at my husband's 25-cent raises because I was like, 25 cents. I would beg for that 25-cent an hour raise at this point in time because that's $520 a year for just a quarter. I really want you to consider how you are keeping your teachers. There's not a teacher shortage. People don't want to teach anymore. And when I say that I have a daughter who's going to be a teacher, the first response from most people is, why didn't you talk her out of it? But I love my job. So I hope you guys can start showing loyalty to the teachers who stay and get them to stay longer than just 4 or 5 years. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Andrea Dort and Patrick Walker.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Dort, and I'm speaking as an individual, but you can see I'm wearing red because I'm for Ed. That's a saying that we have with the NEA. I was representing the district in Houston this summer, and it's very important that you know that I've heard you. You know that we need to increase salaries, not only for teachers, but for our support staff. I cannot do without the assistance that I get in the classroom without the people outside the classroom. I need my media specialist. I teach reading to 11th graders, and I'm trying to get them to pass so that they can graduate. So my class this year is a class of 21 because I teach the juniors. And I need support with technology, because without the technology, how could we have gotten that wonderful award? You know, so we've got to have the technology, we've got to have the buildings, we've got to have the people to help clean the buildings. So all of that takes, and you've got a wonderful budget, but maybe we should dive into that fund where you have an extra 2%. We've got that 5% that we're supposed to have in case of emergencies, and yet we're going to have 2% over that, 7%. The state requires you to have 3%, so maybe we should look into that. The other thing that I'm concerned about is the state intruding on our local government. When the state comes down and says, oh, you've been having this referendum fund for so many years. Now we want you to spend it the way we want you to spend it. You know, and I understand that we could still have some guidelines with that referendum, but now you're going to add more people to take that money away because the state says we have to. And I understand we've got people going up to the state to help lobby for us and to present our causes, but this is something that I hope that you can hear me. We're trying to come up with a budget to help everybody out, and that includes everybody. And I don't need to see my support staff at my school struggling paycheck to paycheck because they're making an hourly wage that is less, and they have to have more than one job. I have, like Paula was saying, I have several jobs that I do for the district. I'm a trainer for new teachers. I try to work every weekend I can for Saturday school at our program for extended learning. I try to do so many things to help my students and to help my staff. So I'm just letting you know we're worth it, and so is everybody here, and so are my children. Even if you're not having a good day, I'm there for them. So I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm not wearing red because I have to have a shirt that I can open because my school doesn't have air conditioning. I'm at Construction Central, St. Peter High School right now. But you understand.
It's going to be pretty when it's done.
It's going to be beautiful, but it's a process. So what I came up here to talk about was basically pretty much piggybacking off of what everybody else said, but I want to start with two words: honesty and respect. My mom always taught me that when you get a job, make sure you have a job that you can be honest about and you can respect yourself when you do it. And teaching is a job that I respect. And I go to sleep easily every night. I never have to worry about anything like that because I feel that I'm helping the future. And that's a beautiful thing. But like the lady was saying earlier, if my child wants to become a teacher, I don't know how to go about doing it. Do you want to do it? Are you sure? Because it's a rewarding job, and I've got students that love me and I've loved them, but I don't know if I would want to send somebody down for a 30-year or 15 or 20-year ordeal doing that, because it's just not, it pays spiritually, but I don't know if it pays financially. And I know nobody really gets into education for finances. But when it comes to, the light bills going up and the water bill, it used to be small, but now it's become gargantuan. Anything else that goes along with your day-to-day living expenses, it's become far, far more difficult to make the ends meet. And the state took out 3%, that wasn't something anybody voted for, I don't think, but, it happened. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is we as a group have to come up with a way to make things better for teachers, because that's only fair. If not, what do we have at this point? Education is one of the founding principles of our country, our democracy. If you take that away, what do we have? And if somebody who respects and loves being a teacher doesn't feel comfortable being a teacher, then what's the point? I'm there for my students, I'm there for the rest of my staff, everybody else, but I think what I'm trying to get at is basically, I don't just go out and say, hey, I'm a teacher, because people look at me sadly. Like, they look at me like, oh, I'm so sorry. I used to do that, but I got out of that because I couldn't handle it. It's not for everybody. It's a vocation, it's a calling. And I know you all understand that, but just find a way to support us, please.
We have another speaker that's signed up, Connie Glasgow.
I'm here.
That's
Thank
okay.
God there's a
We're
microphone
not
in the
rushing you.
bathroom.
We're not rushing you. Necessary.
I had actually not planned on speaking at all. Can you hear me? Speaking at all, but as I'm sitting here, I'm getting more and more aggravated about something. This is my 36th year of teaching. I have 2 more years in drop. I'm not concerned so much about myself because I have signed up at St. Pete College to enter another career after I'm done here. So my concern is, and my request to the board is that I have a daughter who is probably, I'm going to start crying, is one of the best teachers I have ever seen in my entire life. This is her 10th year of teaching, and I know probably everybody sitting here is going, oh, well, isn't that a shame? No, she's a single mother, and by choice, and that's not an excuse, that's just a circumstance. She gets up every single morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to teach Chinese children on the internet so she can make more money. She goes to her school and does an outstanding job teaching kindergarten. Then she stays 3 days a week from 3:30 to 6:30, then comes home and 2 days a week is teaching Chinese children again until she goes to bed. Do you know why I'm still working, my husband are still working? To support my granddaughter, who's an excellent, excellent student at American University in Washington, D.C. And my daughter, who is a teacher, she doesn't get her hair done. I can't tell you the last time she got her hair cut. And we're still giving her money for groceries. And so you sit down with her and say, Kelly, what are you doing with your money? She doesn't make enough money. So my plea to you is, and I have told her, you have got to find another job. And it is just pathetic and a shame that you're losing good teachers because you don't pay enough. You cannot have teachers working at poverty level. I am imploring you to work with PCTA and the bargaining union so we can make more money. We don't make enough money. I'm done.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Ms. Cook?
Yes. I want you to understand that we hear you. We are listening and we hear you. As it was mentioned by one of the speakers, we are asking the legislature for more money. I'm not going to go into a whole lot because we are in the midst of negotiations, so I'm not going to negotiate from the table or get into bargaining from the table, from the dais. But we hear you. We're doing what we can. And as you go through all of the negotiations for what your salary is going to be this year, it's got to come out of the pot of money that we're getting ready to vote on, because this is all we have. And so it would be easy for us to just go on and take the vote. And you would think that, you know, why did I even bother to speak? But we have had conversation. We have had conversation in each one of our groups. We are getting support from across the state. We're not the only school district that is having problems with funding and looking for money for salaries and for all of the things that are necessary to support the students in the classrooms. And that goes for our support staff, our bus drivers, everyone. So please understand that we are working to fulfill your requests. And as we're negotiating, we will be looking at that. And that's as far as I'm going to go, because I don't want to do any bargaining from the dais.
Thank you, Ms. Cook, because I was going to make that announcement, just because I didn't want anyone out there to think that we, for anyone who may not have been here before or not know the process, to think that we're just sitting up here and not listening or taking in what you're saying, based on the fact that we have conversations with a bargaining unit. It would be inappropriate for us to have that back and forth dialogue with you at this time. So please don't think that we are not responding or we're not paying attention or your coming here is in vain. It is not. It's just that we need to make sure that we are following the appropriate processes when it comes to bargaining, because we don't want to get in any trouble. Are there any other comments or questions related to the budget piece that we just completed? Nope. Anything from the attorney? Nope. Okay, so moving on, I have the approval of the final budget for 2019-2020 that will be read by Dr. Carr, and then the adoption of the resolution determining the revenues and millage that will be read by School Board Member Carol Cook. We will come out of the budget hearing. At the end of the budget hearing, we will come back out of recess and go back into our school board meeting to finish our school board business. Okay? Thank you. Dr. Carr.
Adoption of budget for 2019-2020. I move that the board adopt the 2019-2020 budget as presented.
Is there a second? There's been a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any that are opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Carol?
Yes, with the adoption of the resolution determining revenues and millage levied, I move that the board adopt the required resolution as presented without formal reading.
Is there a second? Oh, School Board Member Long did second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I thank each and every one of you for your participation in the budget process, the dialogue and communication that we've had at our workshops regarding the budget process. I want to thank staff that's here that puts the information in a way that we can understand it and explain it to other people from the community. So thank you so very much for that. Do you have, Mr. Kevin, do you have any closing comments or remarks? None? Okay. So I will close out our budget hearing, and I will reconvene our school board meeting so that we can finish up with those. And I was in the midst of comments from board members. Were there any board members that had any additional comments or things that they wanted to share? Okay, so very quickly, countywide graduation was absolutely fabulous. I really enjoyed that. 192 graduates throughout the county. It was a magnetic moment, and the Mahaffey was full all the way to the top. For my students, parents, teachers that are out there, and for the students, all I can say is to implore you, please do not bring BB guns to school. Do not bring guns to school. Do not bring pocket knives, fishing knives, anything that could be considered a weapon. A BB gun has brought someone a third-degree felony. That will hinder that person's ability to do certain things. So law enforcement will take any of these actions extremely serious, and rightfully so, because we don't know what's going on with that person, and we need to make sure that we're keeping individuals safe. So I implore the students, parents that are listening, please, I implore you, because that's not something that we get to decide on. It becomes a legal matter, and then that has to run its course. I post all the time on my Facebook page and my school, my city council, my school board page, city council. Bring it back, bring it back. But there was an article that talked about the conversation with Florida Department of Education, saying that they want to make decisions about the hiring or placement of principals in schools that fall under a transformation status. I would ask, we've talked about a lot of different things, from salaries to construction to transportation. I would ask that you also keep your eyes on that. I believe that districts know what's best, schools know what's best, the staff there knows what's best, along with leadership, reading coaches, math coaches, etc. You know what's best to move those students forward so that they're learning, they're enjoying learning, and we are achieving, unfortunately, what the state mandates that we achieve. So I'm going to ask that you keep your eyes on that, and please call and share your opinions, because we do it, and sometimes our legislature assumes it's just us saying it. But when it comes from people in the community, sometimes they listen. So I would ask that you keep your eyes on that. I shared with a couple of nonprofit entities, as well as Lori Matway and Dr. Valerie Brim, a letter I received from the Ceridian Corporation for application funds for what they call Ceridian Cares. The employees of Ceridian put money into an account that becomes a grant source, and families can request funds to help their families in times of need. The requirement is you have to be 18 years of age or older. It has to be for a family. It can't be for athletics and music and things of that nature. It's for those things that really keep your family running day to day: groceries, rent. It could be a health condition that has overtaken someone, they need assistance with prescriptions and whatnot. So I want to thank Dr. Valerie Brim and Lori Matway for helping me to push that information out. I also shared it with a number of nonprofits, Pinellas Opportunity Council, the Pinellas County Urban League. If anyone in the audience wants me to send it to you, I will. I think it's a really good way for a major corporation to help some of our families that are in need. The 7th Annual Manufacturers Dinner Expo and Job Fair will be held at the Nielsen Research Facility in Oldsmar. I spoke with Mr. Hunt, I think he may be back there somewhere, and we do participate in that, but it's a wonderful way for our technical trades components to remain linked to those manufacturers and business organizations, so that those attending our technical trade schools or our students can continue to have that avenue opening for employment opportunities. So I thank you very much, Mr. Hunt, for continuing to do that. And School Board Member Lentino mentioned visiting Pinellas Technical College Clearwater campus. We will be having the official ribbon cutting for all of the new construction that we've done there, October 3rd, I think. And I hope that many of you can join us, because it'll be a really nice day. They've done a fabulous, fantastic job, and both campuses are buzzing with excitement, and just to see the number of people that are attending courses and classes there is phenomenal. Lastly, I just want to say to everyone that's out there, thank you. I know it doesn't have the green cha-ching on it, but to say thank you. My mother was a teacher. And so some of my colleagues have heard me tell the story about, I'm the baby of 12. So we were the free labor to go in and to take down and put up the bulletin boards, cut out the letters. We didn't have machines back then, y'all. It was a little small scissors where your knuckles got knocked all the time. Making sure that the books were counted and erasing out of the books any of the writings that students may have put in it the year before. And so when I became a school board member, it became important to me to make sure that I tried to stay as much as I could in touch with the experience of teachers, because you do touch every single area of employment that there is. And I want you to know that personally, I thank you for all that you do, have done, and are doing. So those are all of my comments for today. Dr. Grego, are you doing board requests since Dr. Corbett isn't here? Oh, Mr. Herbig's going to do board requests.
And we had two requests, and the first was to follow up and make sure that we continue the discussion regarding the possibilities of providing transportation to fundamental schools in the future. And then the second request was regarding the FLEC committee, and a request to look into who's on the committee, what their roles and functions are, and how members are appointed to that committee, and what the role of that committee truly is.
And can I add something, if you don't mind? Can we have a report brought back as it relates to DMAC and kind of what we're doing there? Are we having attendance? Are they having, not today, but you know, at another time, are they having their quorums met and things like that? And where we are?
Yes, I will. I'll be happy to do that. If I can do it during the leadership at your workshop meeting a week from today. But just as a brief preview, they are functioning well. They're meeting their quora for their meetings, and they are moving forward with discussions. They have subcommittees addressing different topics.
Okay, thank you. Just thought it would be good for a report. All right, so thank you so very much, Mr. Clint Herbig, for making sure you're bringing that information forward. Is there any other business? Mr. Bill Dudley, School Board Member Dudley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm sitting here and I'm looking out at the mass of red out there, and I just can't help but I feel for you. And I was an educator for 38 years, and I feel your pain. I really do. My wife is still teaching. She has another couple of years, and she'll be done. But I want you to know that all of us up here have had experience teaching, some longer than others, but it doesn't really matter. We had experience, and it really is very, very tough. I had a family, and we're going to do everything we can. There's only X number of dollars, and part of it is, without getting into a long debate and all like that, but part of it is the tax structure in Florida is what it is, but you need to know that we're on your side. But I can't give you something. We can't give you something we don't have, and we will do everything humanly possible to see what we can do for you in a positive manner. And I really feel bad. I started teaching. I made $6,200 a year in Pinellas County, but that was then. And times have changed. And when my coaching supplement was like 14 cents a day, but that's that was a long time ago. But my point is that it's awful tough. I understand. I worked summer jobs, I pumped gas and did all that stuff. And I feel for you. And we will do everything humanly possible to try to give you a little relief. And I appreciate, if you're the kind of people I think you are, this is not a job, this is a career. And you entered into the career to help and to mold people to make our society better. And you can't pay bills on promises. You got to have, money to do it. I understand that. And we will do, I just wanted to let you know that we will do everything we can to make a positive effect. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will adjourn our meeting, and then we will open it up for the remaining comments from the public if there are any. Meeting adjourned. Ms. Anson-Minetti?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 12 speakers this evening under general public comments. Our first two are Lenora Faulkner and Brant Robinson. Ms. Faulkner? Mr. Robinson?
If Ms. Faulkner does come back in, I'll allow her to come up when she comes back in.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego and staff. My name is Brant Robinson. I've had the pleasure of speaking to you all and with you all many times, and I just want to point out, as always, that it's such a pleasure and such an honor to be in a room that's surrounded by so many committed educators. Not to get political, but many of us might believe that our democracy itself is under attack, and if that's the case, I think you need to look no further than this room to see that it really does bring out the best in all of us. As you know, I teach at Dunedin High School. For the past 2 years, my wife and I are the co-chairs of the Human and Civil Rights Committee for the Pinellas Classroom Teacher Association, and you know that we've been working on the Restorative Practice Initiative. We're extremely proud of this effort. In fact, maybe more so because for the last 9 months at the PCTA headquarters, we actually sit down with members of the district, Pat Wright, Bob Poth, Dan Evans, and I know they're in the room tonight. We really appreciate you. We're having our first meeting tomorrow. We've had wonderfully collaborative and most importantly restorative meetings together as a group, and I wish you guys could see how exhilarating and how collaborative, how respectful those meetings are. As we went into the summer, we were very excited because all the site-based teams in the district, as you know, were meeting this summer. We were thinking to continue to look forward to restorative practice. We were quite surprised when we found out that the district was unveiling a new initiative called Equity with Excellence for All. And though we very much support the initiative, we're concerned as we go forward into what we looked forward to as maybe kind of a breakout year for restorative practice. We're concerned because now, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, but essentially the Equity with Excellence for All model is essentially kind of bundling things together like restorative practice, PBIS, and also culturally relevant instruction. The challenge is, as we go forward, this raises concerns. Are we actually providing the kind of support and coaching that teachers need for any of those initiatives? We don't think that anyone is proficient in any of those fundamental initiatives themselves, but the question is, are we able to provide support when it comes to coaching? We're looking forward to meeting tomorrow. We have some other suggestions. For example, I hope you're familiar with something called restorative conferences. It's something the district did not invest in. Many other districts do, but we're a month into the school year. Everyone in this room knows who those students are by now who are behavior challenges, academically challenged, and so on. Now we should have something in place in all schools to actually deal with those students, but I don't know that we do. We're also concerned because we want to make sure we have community outreach. As you know, the district has 8 initiatives that are part of the restorative practice plan. One of those is community outreach. So I'm here tonight to ask questions in good faith about, are we able to really effectively assess what we've committed to? And so I really look forward to you all, and I look forward to further progress and updates from us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Carol Robinson and Paul Zanger.
Hi, Madam Speaker, Madam Chairman, board members, Dr. Grego and staff. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. As my co-chair said of the Human Civil Rights Committees for PCTA, we've been working on the Restorative Practice Initiative for almost 2 years now, and we really wanted to make sure it was implemented in Pinellas County with fidelity, because it has the power to make a huge shift change in a district where it's implemented with complete fidelity. And we really wanted it done right. Some of our members have gone to other districts in different states and seen how they've implemented it, and we had really strong hopes that it would be brought back to Pinellas County. And this past year, we had our first 6-hour training with support staff. It included head plant operators, it included kitchen workers, and district officials, all working together at the PCTA headquarters. It was a wonderful experience, and we look forward to more trainings with the full support staff going into the 12-hour trainings. And when we got back to school, we were told that instead of the 12-hour trainings, it would be a 1-hour training instead. And we were very disappointed. And last semester, we gave a survey to all our faculty representatives throughout the district. And this was about how they felt restorative practices was being implemented in their schools. And the one section that really stood out was about how they felt the administrators were modeling restorative practices toward the teachers, a huge part of the school's implementation part. And that's the piece that really was missing at the school level. And without going into the details about how that looks in a school, the administrators, principals, assistant principals are really not modeling what restorative practices looks like. They expect teachers to be implementing this with their students, but they're not walking the walk. And I really want to see the strategic plan to have some room in it to address that part of the need in Pinellas County for our administrators to be held to the same standard to model restorative practices just as teachers are expected to model it. I really appreciate you to take this into consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Zanger? Our next two speakers are Judy McGinty and Mike Gandolfo.
Good evening. I am Judy McGinty, and I'm here on behalf of our FAST organization. And the school district's current implementation of restorative practices is not working. I'm here to ask the school district to come up with a more comprehensive plan for implementation. These are the three things that are not happening in Pinellas County schools that must happen for a successful implementation. Restorative conferencing. This is a key component necessary for RP to be successful. This has not happened in any Pinellas County school. 2, we know that for good implementation, it is critical that an expert with experience implementing restorative practices successfully somewhere else needs to visit the school once a month to provide mentoring and coaching. And 3, an expert with experience implementing restorative practices successfully somewhere else must conduct training for all teachers and support staff together on site. These 3 components are necessary for high-quality implementation, and they are missing from the Pinellas County implementation plan. We are asking our school board members to demand better implementation for our children. We need a new contract with IIRP that includes these three missing components. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. Every year comes with the annual raising of the bar for the teaching profession and for educators in general. Today, teachers are asked to accomplish more with less, to add more to an overcrowded plate, to work longer, harder, and to take on additional certifications. Educators are expected to be the cure-all for all student exceptionalities, family hardships, and poverty, and to push those students to exceed at passing a standardized test. At every turn, the teachers of Pinellas have accomplished all that has been asked of them. The continual pressure placed on educator and student is good for short-term gain only. In the long run, it will burn out teachers and produce a generation of kids resistant to learning. However, that is what has been asked of your employees, and that is what they have delivered. Take ESOL courses so you can teach students who do not speak English. Take ESE coursework and you can teach students with emotional behavior disorder. Take 300 hours of reading coursework, learn restorative practice, prepare students for the endurance required for intense and prolonged testing. Teach while parades of visitors disrupt your classroom environment. Handle your class with less support from ESE associates and other professionals. The bar has been raised, and we've answered every challenge asked of us. The only bar that has not been raised is the bar for wages. We have been fed a steady diet of cost of living raises. The cost of living is up 2.5% since last year. We're tired of staying at the same level on the financial treadmill. We work harder, but do not seem to be getting anywhere. It simply is not fair. The cost of living has increased by 21.7% since 2008. We've been barely treading water with the raises we've received. Teachers have helped fund their own raises by teaching larger class loads every year. The job gets tougher, as do the evaluations. You have money in reserve that exceeds the state requirements as well as your own policy requirements. Our district is far more fiscally sound than almost every other district in the state. Your employees have brought this district so much national acclaim and award. If you can spend $185 million on capital improvements this year in buildings, you need to consider taking care of the people that work in those buildings. They rank 47th among the states in support professional pay and 46th in teacher pay. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Nancy Velarde and Janet Cunningham.
Good evening. For the past year or more, everywhere you look are articles, series, and columns written about the same topic, the teacher shortage. It is referred to repeatedly as a national crisis, and we are feeling the effects here in Florida with 3,500 vacancies across the state at last count. Most, if not all, of these stories come to the same conclusion. This is an easily corrected crisis. An article in the September Forbes magazine had an interesting take. There really isn't a teacher shortage at all. There are plenty of phenomenal teachers in this country. They just don't want to teach anymore. And for many valid reasons. The article cites the lack of raises beyond the cost of living as the most obvious one of all. But they also refer to, and I quote, the steady drumbeat of disrespect, the repeated refrain that U.S. schools are failing, the loss of professional autonomy, and an accountability movement that is more about threats than support. Most authors of these investigative articles, including one by our own Paula Dockery, has come to the very same conclusions. So my question is, why hasn't Pinellas County? While teachers are fleeing the profession in droves, the assault continues on the ones who remain. Our teachers return each August fulfilled and anxious to meet and get to know their new students, and they are greeted with a laundry list of new expectations and demands that extend far beyond their classroom. The micromanagement grows more intense with every year as teachers are considered units and children data points. Robotic, scripted lessons are insisted upon, completely demolishing the human factor that is the necessary part of education. We were thrilled to learn about the move towards social emotional learning, something desired by teachers for years. But while we attempt to build those crucial relationships with our new students, they are dragged out in the first week of school, mind you, for testing. We are pulled out to proctor. Administrators are doubling down on their walkthroughs, which have long since ceased to be for support, have turned critical and punitive. Highly effective teachers are being pulled out for mandated trainings on multiple days, leaving subs in their stead. The ever-rising numbers of students in our classes does nothing to encourage social emotional connections. Forming bonds with trust with our students, which we support wholeheartedly, has been made near impossible with all of the constant interference. We know the legislature's at the root of the problem. When our own district willfully stands with them rather than with us, it is a crippling blow to the trust and relationship we want to establish with you. We would like to return to the 3 R's in the classroom: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we would like your 3 R's to be rollback of demands, raises, and respect.
I just want to correct something that was said, because we've not stood with the legislature against teachers on any item that they brought forward. We've not stood with the legislature when they wanted to take money and provide for charters and vouchers away from public education. We fought against additional security officers and guns in our schools. We fought to make sure that they're continuing with your retirement from the Florida retirement system. We consistently challenged them on some of the state mandated testing that's inappropriate and inaccurate, and we consistently go against them when it comes to school grades, because for me and for many others, that is an erroneous grade. It really doesn't show what's going on in the classroom or with those students. We've consistently supported an increase in our millage rates because we've seen the increase in property values, but we don't see that increase coming back to the district. We've consistently fought asking them to allow us to be able to have a little bit more discretion, if you will, with the dollars that we receive so that we can span out services across. We don't get, as you heard in today's budget, absolutely no money for construction, so we've got to find money somewhere, which is why we've had to borrow money to even make sure we have the technology or that we have facilities that are not falling down around our students' ears. So I mean no disrespect on that, but I could not allow that to stand because that is so inaccurate. I've gotten thrown out of offices because I stand for Pinellas County and for teachers. I've had legislators threaten funding on this district because I speak up and others speak up. So I just could not threaten, they've done it. So I cannot allow that one to stand. I will take anything else that you're saying, and if it's on point, it'll go. But that one, I'm sorry, I don't typically do that, but I could not allow that one to stand because that's not accurate. I do apologize. Next speaker, please.
Board members, Dr. Grego, my name is Janet Cunningham, and I work at Calvin Hunsinger, which is an ESE center. I'm here tonight to speak specifically about our support personnel and about the need for them to be recognized as the professionals they are, in addition to having their salaries boosted. While we as teachers are 46th with our salary, they are 47th, and they make far less than we do. Just looking right now, I found out that Trader Joe's starts at $13.29 an hour, Walmart $14.26 an hour, and Target at $13 an hour for full-time hourly wages. All of them, if you do the math, equate over the federal poverty level, which is $24,600 for a family of 4 with 1 income earner. Many of our support personnel have that. I work with an ESE associate who has a second job. Most of our ESE associates have second jobs. Additionally, to their second jobs, they get up earlier than I do, and I work high school hours. Okay? They get up and they're on the bus, and they're watching our school-based mental health and our EBD students on the bus on the way in before we start. When we say goodbye to our students, they're on the buses, watching them on the way home to ensure continuity and safety. They provide a vital aspect to our school system. And yet, what they're paid becomes a mere pittance. I don't believe that anybody works the ESE associate job for the money, but many of them can't afford to continue to work that job. My daughter, a graduate of Pinellas County Schools, walked out from her high school diploma, got a job at a local yogurt shop, and within 6 months was the manager making $32,000 a year. I know that our students are worth more than yogurt. It's really disheartening to even share that personal story with anybody because I don't want my associates to leave. They provide safety for our kids. They provide safety for our staff. They are eyes and ears that we need to have at all of our schools with all of our students, specifically ESE students. Those are vulnerable students, and they are also volatile students. And we need to have that help, and we need to have that assistance. We also need to have that recognized with looking at what their pay salaries are. Please, as we continue to look through negotiations for what salaries will be, consider the importance of the support professionals with the respect that they deserve. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Travis Luth and Robert Phillips.
Move for when Ms. Velarde was up. So the clock's been fixed. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. It's my first time speaking before the board, so I apologize. But I'll try to be concise and quick. I woke up this morning at 4:30 so that I'd have time to go work out to help alleviate the effects of stress on my body that come from being a teacher. I had to be home by 6:10 to help my wife get out the door to her position as a teacher at Bayside High School. Then it was up to me to feed and clothe and create lunches and get out the door my two daughters by 7:30 so I could drop them off at preschool and my brand new kindergartner who just started at Lakeview Fundamental. And then from there I go directly, drive straight to Pinellas Secondary School to be there by 8:50 for our middle school hour start time for our high school students. I teach all day in a school that is underfunded, understaffed, and overcrowded with all the students that the rest of the schools in this county do not want. At this school, I teach reading, emphasis on the quotations, because it's a class that I have been told is simply, quote, test prep to get them to pass the FSA, a course where the county no longer trusts the teachers, so we now have our whole curriculum written out for us day by day in giant binders that are handed to us at the beginning of each quarter. I fill out feedback forms for 504s, IEPs, and threat assessments. I monitor students' physical and mental health, on watch for drug overdoses, signs of suicidal ideation, or simply anger and fear that can explode into physical violence in a single breath. I also try to expand their worldview, teach them to rekindle a love of reading that was ground out in the 5th grade, and show them that kindness really can make a difference. And what do I and my fellow teachers, both here and across the state, get for it? A deep well of disrespect from our superiors, politicians, and governing bodies, and a level of pay that is so dismal that even though my wife and I both teach, I still work 2 other jobs 4 to 5 nights a week so that we can afford to be teachers. To put a nice serendipitous bow on this morning while making breakfast, my 5-year-old was sitting at the table drawing. She's obsessed with drawing, loves to draw, draws all the time right now, right? Draws everything. And she says to me, just out of the blue, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a teacher who teaches art. I smiled at her and I told her that would be awesome. you'd be so great at teaching kids how to draw. And in my head, all I could think was, please don't let her become a teacher. As the gentleman on the dais said earlier, it's because of the tax structure in this state. Well, then the tax structure in this state is broken, and it needs to be fixed. And it starts with the people who represent us. The millage rate in this county used to be 9.35, which if that was still the millage rate today would be $247 million extra dollars in this county's budget. Okay? I understand that it's the legislatures, but you are the voice between us because we do not have the legal right to go on strike and protest directly to the state.
Robert Phillips.
All right, my name is Robert Phillips, and I work at Nina Harris ESE Center. This is a school that is in incredible amount of distress. I have pictures here to show the level of a beating that I took on the bus from one of our students at Nina Harris on the first week of school. We have 3 behavior specialists at our school, one of which has a broken leg. We do not have nearly the manpower to deal with the type of children that we are receiving. And when I say children, I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about 19 to 22-year-old grown men, 250-pound men that broke down a door to an OTPT lounge in order to assault the toys in there while there were actual children in wheelchairs being treated for their physical disabilities. Someone is going to die. I have personally witnessed our students perform sexual assaults at Nina Harris, things that anybody else in this room would go to prison for. I have seen weekly people have to go to workman's comp from being beaten, from having bones broken. It is unacceptable, the level of abuse that we are expected to take. I am an ESE associate. I make about $12.50 an hour. Who else here has ever worked a job for $12.50 an hour where you're going to go home to your family with your face looking like that? No one. Several people here have brought up that the pay rate for the ESE associates is abysmal. I know you understand that. However, something needs to be done at that school. We need more support. We are not able to serve these kids in a way that they are going to be able to survive even in a day program in the real world after they graduate. I, in my classroom right now, have 9 kids in there with 4 adults. We still do not have the manpower to perform extended transition duties with these students. I want to know who is speaking out for these kids who cannot speak out for themselves. Who's going to have to die before somebody does something about this? Thank you.
Dr. Grego, can you follow up, just because some of the things he stated were concerning, so can you follow up on that and just get back? Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
Our next 2 speakers are someone signed up LS and then Andrea Dort.
It's a pretty nerve-wracking person to follow, those issues. That's insane. Hi, I'm here to ask you guys some questions, some questions. As a parent, I'd like to know why it's such a hassle to have my son removed from a Reading for College Success class and then placed into another elective. As a teacher, I'd like to know why the district thinks it's best to not actually use the RCS classes as the intervention they claim to be, but instead as test prep classes that do little more than torture students with passages and multiple choice questions, binders of them. As a parent, I would like to know why the district piles practice test after practice test on kids when it's well known that excessive testing only teaches kids to hate learning. As a teacher, I'd like to know why novels and ensuing discussions aren't seen as the best mode of engaging reluctant readers, despite all the research that shows how essential reading novels is to the cognitive development of all humans. There is no research that says that short passages and multiple choice questions made by for-profit companies is sound pedagogy. I'd like to know why, if these RCS classes are so helpful, why are students in them year after year after year, instead of the classes doing the work of remediation and them being one and done? What research is the district using to justify this course of action? What data suggests that this is the way to go? Where's the science behind this grand experiment at the expense of students? And it's funny that you mentioned the fire marshal earlier. As a parent, I would like to know why my child is in classes that are over the fire code maximum for the rooms. As a teacher, I would like to know why the district thinks that any academic class should have more than 25 students, despite the plethora of research that shows that smaller classes are what's best for students. I'd like to know why my colleagues and I are being forced to shoulder the burden what is essentially a silent strike, not a shortage on teachers. We have overstuffed classes on top of the extra class we took on several years ago when the economy tanked. That extra class was supposed to be temporary, but it's turned into a way to work us more and make room for these extra test prep classes. I'd like to know why this is happening. Why are we working more and bringing home less than we were 15 years ago? Why does the district think that these larger classes benefit students? Finally, as a human creature who lives and works in this community, I would like to better understand why teachers in this district are micromanaged and mistreated with punitive evaluations by people who are too often not even academics, but middle managers. I would like to better understand why this district isn't taking every possible course of action within its purview to hold on to the power and the promise that is public education, instead of enabling the not-so-quiet encroachment of charter and private schools. Your jobs are on the line, too. Thank you.
Good evening. Earlier, I spoke on the budget. I appreciate you listening to me for that. And as a teacher at Clearwater High School, we have wonderful programs at the school, and we do have issues with the building, but apparently we're going to be getting new buildings and all that. But as the other speakers have spoken, and all the emotion and issues that are going on, I'm just one drop in the bucket. I know that, but children matter, and I know that you know this. So please help us out. Please listen at bargaining. Please listen that I tried to stress that that contingency fund with the 2% extra that you have on top of what we already required of 5% might be used for some good and not be used just to sit there. So we've got things coming up. With the hurricanes that we've had, of course that contingency fund may be needed, but with an influx of more students. But like teachers have said, if we don't have enough teachers in the classroom and we keep getting more and more kids to put in the classroom, it makes it hard. And like she said about the teaching to the test, I've got my FCAT, I call it FCAT still, but I've got my FSA assessments for my juniors Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, and all the ISM visits were planned for during my FSA testing. The one ISM visit I thought they were going to come this week for, they decided not to look in on my classroom. As somebody said, oh, but you're always prepared. I'm always prepared. But it just kind of sets a standard when you're expecting visitors and nobody shows up, and then told, oh, well, they're going to come later, and then that later is when I'm supposed to be proctoring. It just kind of silly, but it's not about me, guys. It's about my kids. It's about my staff and my new teachers. We've got a lot of good things going on in the district. We do. We get a lot of awards. And I know you're doing your best, but listen to what some people are saying. There's a lot of pain out there, and it makes me sad. I'm empathetic to what's going on, and I hope you can find a solution. Thank you.
That was the end of our speakers for this evening. Thank you all so very much for coming. Meeting adjourned.